What's up, and welcome back to Interpret the Stars, where today we are bringing it back to our Quentin Tarantino marathon of films, this time with 2007's Death Proof, which is yet another Tarantino movie that I hadn't seen yet before watching this marathon. It stars Kurt Russell, who's playing a stunt man who's driving around in an old muscle car, and he's kind of stalking females. You're not entirely sure why he's stalking females, you're not entirely sure what he's trying to do, and I won't spoil you on what he's trying to do. You kind of have to watch the movie to see it for yourself, because that's really the whole plot of the film, and I don't want to spoil it. But the movie is based off of old 70s exploitation films, grindhouse films, which isn't really an area of film I'm very familiar with. I don't think I've really seen many of them. I know I've seen some of them, just not a whole lot. All I know is that before watching this marathon, I probably wouldn't have decided to watch the movie as it was. But at the end of the day, I cross my fingers and I hope for the best, because it is Tarantino and he does know what he's doing pretty much all the time. Pretty much right off the bat, when I pressed play, I was in for a ride, because I could tell right away how much focus, how much dedication was put into behind the scenes. The very look of the movie feels like it was shot in the 70s. The way it was edited is weird, because if it was any other movie, it would have been edited badly. Like, for instance, because it's trying to be an old film, they have overlapping scenes where somebody says a line and then it cuts and then they say the line again because it wasn't stitched together properly, which is something you probably see more often in older films than in today's age. And it's in there on purpose. It's weird because they included bad edits on purpose to make it feel authentically like it took place in the 70s, even though this is where it gets weird. The movie actually takes place in 2007. There's plenty of references to CGI. There are magazines that are modern day. They mentioned Lindsay Lohan at one point, so it's a weird mixture between modern day and 70s. And that's probably the weirdest thing about the movie when it comes down to pacing, when it comes down to setting. You want it to feel like it is set in stone in one specific place, and this is what makes Tarantino feel like Tarantino. He just dials it up on the unconventional route when it comes down to how this movie feels. Yes, it feels like an old film that takes place in modern day, which is so weird, yet so captivating at the same time. And of course, there's a lot of focus on the music. Of course, there's a lot of focus on the dialogue, because there's so much dialogue in this movie. It reminded me of Reservoir Dogs, how much people just talk to each other nonstop throughout the film. And you're just sitting there watching it thinking it's not gonna go anywhere, because it's just gonna have these people talk back and forth about seemingly nothing. But just like Reservoir Dogs, it does add up to something at the end. You just have to have patience, you just have to wait it out. But I could see people watching it and thinking the pacing's a little bit wonky, like it's not actually going anywhere, like what's the point? Another problem with the pacing in this film is the fact that it kind of feels like two separate movies. There's the first half, and then there's the second half. The first half gets you acquainted with Kurt Russell's character and a few girls he runs into. The second half gets you acquainted with a group of girls, and then Kurt Russell shows up near the end of that story. It doesn't feel like one complete story until you're done watching the movie and you're like, okay, I get it. It's just, once again, completely unconventional, not what you would expect. But it is a lot of fun. This movie specifically has a few moments, specifically in action sequences, where it never depended on CGI, but instead used a lot of practical effects and actual stunt work. And the stunt work in Death Proof is some of the best stunt work I've seen in a long time, and that's including some of the stuff I've seen in Mission Impossible. It really is unbelievable, and I kind of wish there was just more of it in the movie, and I know that's just me being biased because I really like that kind of stuff. And I don't want to talk too much about it, because if you haven't seen the movie and I start spoiling you on how they use stunt work, it'll ruin the surprise. When it comes down to Tarantino's work specifically, it does feel like him. You really feel his passion for filmmaking when you watch this movie. I wouldn't say it's his best movie, but it does stand out as different, as his movies often do. Bird just flew into the window. If you're not already a fan of Tarantino, I could see where this film would set some people off. The pacing in general is weird. It's not what you would expect with a lot of different movies. Even I found myself tapping my foot, waiting to see if I'd ever be clued in onto what's to come, because there is so much dialogue that often feels like it doesn't mean anything. Reservoir Dogs was also a dialogue-heavy film, but a lot of the times the dialogue in that movie specifically felt like it was super important. It also helped to develop their characters a little bit more. I can't say the characters in Death Proof really felt that memorable, other than maybe Kurt Russell's character. All the girls kind kind of mixed together, kind of were forgettable. I did like them, but I didn't think they were memorable. And I think Tarantino movies in general have a really good sense of character. Usually with Tarantino movies, I can distinguish one character over the next, but in Death Proof, they all kind of blend together. The girls do, at least. Not completely, but enough to feel like they're not super independently important to the plot. At the end, though, I would say that it is an incredibly fun movie. It's not perfect, but by the time the movie was wrapping up, I had a big smile on my face and I was just enjoying every second of it. Guys, I rated this movie 78%, 78 out of 100 possible stars. Now, if you're wondering where that ranks in my Tarantino rankings, technically it's in second to last place. However, I do have it scored quite a bit higher in general than Jackie Brown, which is the lowest in my current rankings. I still have a ways to go. Guys, tell me what you thought of Death Proof in the comments down below. And as for YouTube, you know what to do. Subscribe to me, hit the like button, hit the bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out!